Hello, welcome. We are live. It is the Daily Extra live. It's a day when there may be an announcement. Apparently, there is going to be an announcement today. Whether that's about Bill Kenwright, because obviously the statement was released the other day that said 48 hours there'll be a decision with Bill Kenwright, and also apparently, if you believe the report, there was going to be news about the interim board that'll be in place.
Well, that was in the statement.
From now. Yeah, so that's what we're expecting, aren't we? We've got no time yet, have we, of when it might happen.
Interim board and the position of the chairman within 24 hours.
Will be clarified, yeah.
Yeah, so 24 hours is 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, so we may hear before, we may not. We'll see.
Well, absolutely. And mainstream media are getting ready for it, aren't they? Because we know we're being asked to comment on national radio stations and the like. So I don't know whether they've had an embargo press release. We don't know, do we? We haven't. So.
Nope.
But yeah, it just seems there's a significant expectation we're going to hear something. Let's call it imminently.
Yeah, absolutely.
In practical terms, one expects it'll be somewhere in between our two live shows. Yeah. Well,
we're live at 5 on the club call, so people will be able to react.
Instant reaction.
Instantly, won't they? If it is 5 o'clock again, if it's the end of, if they're saying it's the end of business and all that stuff, like they do, the end of the business day when the announcement is. That's what it was the other day. I'm not saying
it was
that
5 o'clock the other day, wasn't it? Yeah. That's what I mean. So it wouldn't be a surprise, would it, if it at 5 o'clock? So.
Yeah.
So it could be breaking news while we're live, I suppose.
I think, like you say, for me, I don't see anything other than Bill Kenwright moving on. Whether that is now or whether it is a managed exit, because they're trying to do it for the purpose of for having the right people on the board and a hand over me. I don't know. I am just guessing as I'm talking here. But that, to me, I think the end result will be we're going to have a new chairman, and whether that's what I see. Or new chairperson, exactly, yeah. So whether that is we're having a new chairperson now, because we haven't got one, or whether that is we've got a new chairperson by the time the season starts, say, or September the 1st when the transfer window shuts, I think that's the kind of news I'm expecting to come out. Are you expecting any different than that?
No, not really, because the statement said interim. Now, unless that changes with a subsequent statement, we can expect whatever happens to Bill Kenwright, at least 2 directors are needed to bring it up to 3. So we need minimum between 2 and 3 directors to comply with the Articles of Association and sort of show the sign of we're carrying on business as usual. Then you're into subtleties around, well, how long does interim mean, and those sorts of things. But if it's some of the public figures who've been mentioned, whether it's George or Andy or somebody else, again, if they're interim, you still leave yourself open to, well, who's the permanent people
next? Yeah. Is there any world in which Farhad Moshiri takes a place on the board for now, given he's the owner, or is that just unlikely to happen?
He could. Of course.
I just mean for the interim period.
Yeah, he could, of course. But he, other than what he did with USM Holdings, briefly, I suppose, well, however long he was on that, but he dropped off that as well.
He come off
but
that.
Generally, he didn't just, he hasn't had any appetite for many a long year of joining this board. You might suggest that gives the impression that you're leaving the experts to get on with it. But of course, there may be some issues and challenges around that with other relationships he has, when it's perhaps more sensible that being a shareholder and being a guy on the board and not and driving the thing bring different attentions, don't they? So I can't imagine he feels the need to come onto the board.
I was just thinking with the interim period,
there's plenty of people in the football club that you could plonk on a board just to satisfy the articles, but they're all people who would have in the past reported through Denise probably, and therefore are quite used to doing as they're told, because that was the management style, So it'd just be a technical thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I think.
Are you thinking it'll be a technical fulfillment today, or are you thinking interim means interim is as in potentially three new people. So people who aren't in the football club, and they're not necessarily going to be the ones who, like you said, are permanent going forward.
All things are possible, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know,
I just mean, like, what you got? Have you got a gut feeling on it, or not really?
Not really, only
Okay.
because of the haphazard way some of these things are happening.
Yeah, true.
You know,
True.
Because interim, clearly, if you were writing a statement, you would say, let's pretend this is what happens today, right? A, B, and C are your interim board, and this is what they're going to do.
Just put. Ned, could we just turn John's microphone up a little bit? Thank you.
In lay terms,
Yeah.
these guys are going to mind the shop while we recruit these other people.
Yeah.
You know. Now, clearly, as soon as the statement comes out today, because one assumes it is going to come out, at least it's going to say, well, we told you 48 hours ago we're going to do something in 48 hours, and now we're telling you this is it, or it's going to be another period of time or whatever. But inevitably, answers to questions bring further questions, don't they? So A, B, and C are your interim board. Okay, what's happening with MSP then? How long are they going to be interim for?
Yeah.
When do you expect to appoint permanent chairs, chief execs, financial officers, commercial officers, non-executives, blah, 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 blah?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And is it a real board in the context of they are held accountable, because legally they are held accountable for the day-to-day running of the business, and they have to act in the best interest of all shareholders, blah, 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 blah. And if they are three people who have currently been in the ranks at Everton Football Club, then how credible are they?
Yeah, you're not convincing anyone, are you?
How credible are they? I am curious, and I think I tweeted it yesterday, as who went to the Premier League meeting yesterday to represent Everton. And I don't know whether anyone would tell us whether Everton sent anyone at all.
They'd have to, though, wouldn't they?
But as a representative of a Premier League shareholder, I'm assuming, and I don't know, someone will know, but I'm assuming you would have to be a director of the company if you're going to represent it to go to the Premier League meeting as a shareholder in the Premier League. Now, on the basis someone would have to be a director, and as of yesterday there's only one, and I can't imagine Bill went. I guess we didn't show. So they're talking about salary caps and so on, and Everton are not sat round the table, having been front and centre for the Tracy Crouch report. So it just shows you where we are really, and why, as we discussed yesterday, decisive leadership and effective communication are so critical. So we can't really think too much of if it does turn out to be this, we can't think too much of a holding statement today. It needs to be something quite decisive. And of course, the wider fan base, to them, decisive is a firm understanding on what Bill Kenwright's position is or is not going forward.
Yeah.
You can't be wishy-washy.
No, and I think the thing about it as well is, FPL Prem tipster says, do we trust Mashiri to appoint reliable replacements? Well, we're going to have to, because he seems to be the one that's going to do it, and he owns the football club. So
it's his football club.
Exactly. We can't say this board has to go and we don't trust you to put new ones in, because then how do we get new people in? I of course, mate, I get your question, but
but you and I,
you have to just let them.
The business we're playing stuff, I'm sure we've talked months upon months ago. You know, the ball go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, most of them went yesterday, type of thing.
Yeah.
But 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
But the ball goes tomorrow. What happens then? We're now living that in real life.
Yeah.
What happens? Not then. Now.
Do you think it needs to be? They've said it's today, so I imagine it'll be today anyway.
Within 48 hours.
Within 48 hours. Well, we've got, what have we got? 3 hours, less than 3 hours left of that.
2 hours, 50 minutes.
Of that 48-hour deadline. So for me,
a self-imposed deadline.
Exactly, so they put on.
You'd like to think they do know what they're going to say.
Exactly, and it has to come
the
out
I's and crossing the T's, and
it needs it to come out anyway, because there's other stuff that needs doing at this football club as well. And listen, I'm assuming that everybody. Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, yeah.
Tomorrow.
Fixtures come out
tomorrow. Big days tomorrow. So, John Jones says, "How is the director of football not a director?" And I think, his other part of it. Says, how's he not on the board as well?
There's good questions, my friend. Good questions. The way I would answer it is a little D director It's just someone with director in the job title. There's lots of directors around who are not.
Do you believe he should be on the board?
Well, I'll come to that in a second, right?
Okay.
So he's not a company director, so he's not a director of the business.
Okay.
He's just a guy with director in his job title, right? Should the director of football be on the board? Now, when we started doing Everton Business Masters all those years ago, which is probably not long after Farr had turned up, so we're talking 6 or 7 years ago, one of the very first things I said on that was when we talked about what would a functional board look like structurally, and we said absolutely, yes, the director of football should be on the board. We also said there should be a chief engagement officer, and briefly, Brands in the grand scheme of things was briefly, even though it was a number of years, he was on the board. And I think that is important. And I don't quite understand personally why, when Kevin Thelwell replaced Marcel Brands, the board position just fell away. Yeah. And in and around that time, I guess, maybe a bit ahead, maybe a bit behind, I can't remember the chronology, we got Graham Sharp instead. Yeah,
was it? Yeah.
Yeah, because Graham
it's
Sharp,
around the time, I think.
Yeah, I could check, but it's all history now. But Graham was there to advise the board on sporting matters, which was curious because that was what his ambassadorial role was. When he became players like president and all that sort of stuff. So it just to me read like a chief exec who wanted a yes man, rather than a real football representative on board level, which would be the director of football.
Yeah, because people are asking, John Jones is saying if football club doesn't have a football director on the board, then what the F are we doing? And I know that this was a case of people will have said, why does he need to be on the board? We were at the AGM when Professor Tom Cannon stood up, and he was totally against the director of football being on the board.
I disagree with it.
Or maybe he was just against Marcel Brands because there was no.
No, I think he was against
the principle. The principle of it, wasn't it? And would there be any point in him being a non-executive director of football on the board? No. Okay, I'm just asking that. I'm just throwing it out there.
If the mechanicals of a non-exec is supposed to be an impartial advisor, and if he's an employee, he can't be impartial, can he?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And we never ever found out who Thelwell reported to.
Never.
Let's not forget. We can all
Brands.
Yeah, indeed.
That's the interview.
We can be awfully critical. Well, no, Brands was clearly reported to the chair of the board because he was a board member.
Of course, yeah. So it wasn't in the. Yeah, so we don't know who Thelwell's.
So we don't know who Thelwell reported to.
It'll be the CEO, won't it?
Well, it would be someone at board level.
Yeah.
But we don't know. You could have a judgment. We don't know.
Yeah.
And we had the perversity of a board member, i.e., the finance guy, reporting to the chief exec.
True.
So straight away, you've got a block vote there, haven't you? Because Grant was never going to do something Denise didn't agree with.
Yeah.
Because he reported to her.
Should all them just report to the chairman then?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my view.
Nice, yeah.
The board are peers reporting to the chair, and the chair acts fundamentally, clearly a facilitator and stuff like that. But, the casting vote, if you don't really know what you're going to do. You can't have a casting vote, can you, when there's only 3 of you, because it's got to be 2-1. And if one of the other two, if you're the chair and one of the other 2 reports to one of the other 2, then that might be a block vote. That might be a block vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why for me, and again, this is with no business acumen, as in running businesses and stuff at a high level. I just always looked at Everton's board and thought that's too small.
It's way too small.
Just for a simple challenger. From a challenger point of view, from sitting round when you can't say, but it's thought showering now, isn't it? So when you're putting stuff out and people go, no, well, you shouldn't really be doing that because of a bit. But if there's 1, 2, 3 of us, it becomes a closed discussion. But if there's 8 of us, say, I'm likely to find people who are going to ask me why or challenge me, and then we might come to a better position. That is something I've always believed.
And you're right. You're right, because I've just personalise a situation where, and I've said it before, so I can say it again, particularly as 2/3 have definitely already gone.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. But Grant reported to Denise, who reported to Bill. That's not a board.
No.
Right? Where's the impartiality? Where's the challenge going to come from in a hierarchy that's stacked on top of each other? Well, it isn't. So generally, and 3 I think is too few anyway.
Yeah.
Right? But generally, you would say, well, that's what non-execs are for. They bring external experience. They're not involved in the day-to-day running of the business. So when you make a management decision that says, I'm making it up, let's build a stadium with a capacity that the fan base think is too small.
And it is.
Right? And the people making that decision maybe go back to the Elston days.
Yeah.
Maybe bonused on how many bums are on seats. So, might not actually be an impartial view. It might be self-interest. It might be my bonus is more likely if the stadium's 52 rather than 62, and all sorts of stupid things. It's just really crazy example. But if you've got a non-executive director sat across the table from you, who, I don't know, was involved in the building of Wembley or involved in the building of the Emirates or the Etihad or whatever, and says, in my experience, I think this, right? Then maybe the chair would get some support from his peers or the subordinates or the non-execs that his view that 52 is too small is right. But if you just go around the table and say, hands up for 52, and you get 3-1 votes, done.
Because this isn't digging Graham Sharp out, I just mean the position. Graham Sharp was employed by the football club day to day, so he's there as a non-exec.
There was an odd conundrum there about whether he was a non-exec or not, whilst being an employee, because they are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking out loud, because as you're saying that, we're bringing someone in. I always mention Sir Terry Leahy because he was always linked with Everton, being at the top with Tesco and all that. If he'd have just come into board meetings, wasn't employed by Everton Football Club, Evertonian, so it's a bonus, of course, comes in and sits there and says, well, in my business experience of building Tesco from getting shot and everywhere now, aren't they? This is what we did, and this is how we did it, and this is how we worked, and good business is this, and that's different to what others are saying. You might get that chat. That surely helps you come to a better conclusion. And if you all still come to the conclusion that you thought you were getting to, great. You all agree, but let's at least have the argument over it, or the discussion.
Well, that's right, and the chair's
make it bigger.
Yeah, the chair's job in that would be to determine what sort of experience do I want a non-executive to bring. So we would want someone in the recent past. We might have said, we're not going to do it now, are we? But we'll do a bit of it. We might have said, well, we've got these 3 operational people. Just simplistically, or maybe 4, whatever it is. Let's have 3 or 4 outsiders who are not involved day to day.
Which you see it like Dortmund and in Germany, places like that.
They're not involved at all day to day. They bring experience, and the chair and maybe the owner think, what kind of experience do we want them to bring? Well, in the last 5 years, we might have said, well, let's have someone with a strong financial background. An ex-banker or a current banker or whatever. Let's have someone with consumer engagement, for example, or whatever. Let's have someone who understands about running large-scale entertainment complexes or whatever. You know what I mean? And I'm sure if everyone watching this went down the pub with their mates and did their own let's play, put a board together, you'd just look at the failings of the last 5 to 10 years and say, where have we lacked experience at board level? A strong commercial person who can go and drive commercial revenues. Perhaps a sporting understanding, right, that was listened to, because then we've had a revolving door of managers and so on, right? And none of that ever happened.
No.
And yet when we did increase the numbers at board level, you got the chief exec, apparently, I would observe, right, making a personal pick on someone who wasn't going to rock the boat. A brave person, and this, you've just done it about Graham, it's not maligning the individuals, but if you're playing to an audience that's further away than the people who work for you, and you think to yourself, we want an ex-player on the board, who shall we have, Graham Sharp or Neville Southall? If you ask the fan base that question, and hindsight unfortunately means, could be jaundice right now, but go back 3 years and said, which one of these 2 would you like? I suspect you might get a bigger vote for Nev than you would for Graham.
Well, Neville's being outspoken all the way.
And that's the point. Just because he would be not be seen, and doesn't mean Graham was, but he would not be seen as a yes man. But everyone goes native when money gets involved. You know what I mean? But has the potential to go raising.
Yeah.
But the point being that the board we had and have had for a long time, we know how it's engaged or not with shareholders associations, fans forums, fan advisory boards, whatever. And challenge is something it doesn't like. Even teeny weeny little challenge.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, you
so,
see it on the media
So
level.
the new board needs to embrace opinions that are not necessarily their own
and roll with it.
And the best way to achieve that is to have non-executive directors who are robust, confident individuals who will tell you as they see it. And don't forget, non-execs on one level are simply advisors.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But if you lose your non-execs, you're basically giving the game away that you're being parochial. Right?
Yeah.
Because why do you have them, you know, if you're not going to listen to them?
Yeah,
a bit like having a director of football and not listening to him, you know? So it's there's lots to be done.
There is.
Lots to be done.
There is. Gary Ward says hello. Gareth Hughes says, interesting fact, if a meteorite hit Earth, only cockroaches, plankton and Bill can able to survive. David Green says, a new beginning, we hope. Side Jukebox says, fingers crossed he goes today and the rebuild starts. We need players in and the original. Other players gone. Mark wants to hear something today.
See, there's an interesting observation there while you're reading through stuff, that someone joins up the business side of running a football club, right, with we need players in and we need other ones gone. Because in theory, the guy who should be accountable for that hasn't gone anywhere. He's been here for nearer to 18 months than 12, right? And business as usual has to carry on.
I think people just want, my reading of it, people just want, and me as well, a little bit of stability. You know that things have moved on. This is the next phase because we know that because 3 of them have gone the other day. So therefore there's a hole. If you just look at it.
They need to be replaced.
And just general, you go, well, there's a hole in the business because they're not there. The CEO isn't there. So what is going on right now? So that needs addressing because we all ultimately forget about everything else of who's the chairman and who's on the board and all. The biggest thing that matters is the playing. That's what we're interested in. We're all interested in that football team.
Happens on make a joke. 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. That's the only thing that matters.
So we're all looking now, going, well, hang on, this side has circled the drain for the last 2 seasons. We were blatantly short in the final third this season, proven by the goal return. We know. We knew that this time last year. We have just been doing something, creating something new for the end of the season, just a part of what we're doing. And there's a clip from me and Ped sat in Minnesota United Stadium after they just beat us 4-0 and me saying, well, quite clearly we need attackers because you can see there's no goals in this team. And fast forward, we were proven right. Wasn't the only one saying it, wasn't Clever saying it. Everybody could see it. Everybody was saying it. That was what it is, and that ain't gone away. And therefore, we want to all believe as fans that we're ready to do things. We're seeing players joining other clubs. We've just seen Tielemans joining Aston Villa. Announcements going left, right, and centre. Liverpool have already signed McAllister, and it goes on and on and on. Players moving clubs. Roma seem to be signing everyone on a free.
That was the 20th of July last year.
Okay, so I've said that
we're well into June. And you could say it again.
Exactly. And that's why fans will be,
there's you and Inchie.
There you go. So it was after that. So we're sat here now, roasting. We're sat here now, Evertonians have known that this need and the fear, everybody knows the fear is there that are we going to address it? And we've got this big noise still going on, and yet we're seeing nothing on the other side. So people, even if Kevin Felwell has got,
plans,
the steam coming because they're working so hard and they're talking to people and they've got deals lined up. Perception-wise, there's an issue because there is, and we need to see some evidence that we're going to start doing things better. People will probably tell me I'm in cloud cuckoo land if I think we're going to move forward as a football club, but you have to have that hope. I've always got that hope. Because I think you can always be better and you can always get better. That's how I look at it anyway. If you've underperformed, you get better players in. People might say we haven't got a big budget. Well, there's a lot of players in the world. There's varying ways to pay, varying budgets, lots of frees. Start addressing some of these things.
Do you know, and Ned will be doing some of that thing we put together, which you just talked about, and he was showing you some rushes, I suppose they're called, aren't they? Yeah.
First draft.
But if you can find it, Ned, there's a moment in one of the sofa things we did. I think Steve Kelly might have been on it,
Right.
where we were talking about stuff and all getting reasonably morose about it sometime through the season. And I remember seeing your face, and because it became like a bomb had just dropped, which was I said something like, Ned, I don't think we've hit rock bottom yet.
Yeah.
And the look on your face, and I think it was Steve Kelly's, was like, oh my God, right? We know where we're at, and we may not have hit bottom yet.
It's terrifying.
Which in that moment was terrifying, right? Have we hit bottom yet?
I want to say yeah. The optimist in me will say yeah, but the realist in me will say
don't know.
Probably not.
Don't know.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go even with probably. I say don't know, and that's equally scary.
Yeah.
Because that you can't get better until you hit the bottom. But actually, just like a bungee, you could make the bottom come closer to you.
Yeah.
So actions today may mean that a future bottom, we never go there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you're quite right about, well, I just picked a date out, 20th of July, 2022, after we got battered by an MLS team who made us look like amateurs and could have won by more, and an ex-Everton player managed them. You said, crystal clear, basically, it's obvious what we need. And it's still obvious.
Yeah, and that's terrifying, isn't it?
It's still obvious.
It's terrifying if there's your house is on fire and you don't want to put it out.
I think it's see the situation last season was we were sat here on July the 1st and we knew straight what we needed straight away, and we still do. But I think everyone's at a situation now. We're not got a clue what we can and can't do. We've been under more scrutiny this season, certainly in the media, whether it's real or it's fluff. But we're at a situation now where we've already had a season where we know exactly what we wanted, but we didn't get anything. We had a January where we didn't know exactly what we wanted. Then Mashiri said we'd get a striker, and we didn't. And now we're in the same situation in the summer transfer window again. But we've not got a clue what we've... And it's a thing with the Conor Cody move. Can we even afford this move? Is it a fact that they don't want him? Do the club know what they can and can't spend? Is it a situation where we have to sell players? We haven't got a Richarlison we can sell this year. You look at assets and you think maybe Pickford, but there's talk that he's probably doesn't even want to leave. There's an Onana, but where'd you find a buyer for players like him? Do we even have to sell, or even if we sell, is that going to be enough? And that's the thing. I think that's the thing that worries us. We know we need players, and goals don't come cheap. We spent money on players like Maupay, who scored 1 goal this season, and you could probably spend less and get more goals out of a player anyway. That's probably just a bad buy. But I think the problem now is we're getting, the times. You said the transfer window opens tomorrow, and
it's actually today. I've just been told. Today.
The club might not even have a clue what they can and can't do. Maybe it's a thing where they need to discuss with the Premier League.
Ned, they're negligent if they don't know.
Yeah, they must know, mate. They must know what they can do. And a lot of it might be that they do wait until this financial year ends. Don't forget, in this financial year, we've got Anthony Gordon's money. Moise Keane money will drop in.
Some of those will have been accounted for.
Yeah, of course they will. But if it's on books,
absolutely.
then it's all about, you've said lots of times, it's all about what shows up. Might be real cash, but it's what shows up.
Let's not be shy, right? If the football club does not know, going back to what Ned said, what they can and can't do, there's been bona fide negligence in and around the areas that you need to execute to know. It's bog standard stuff. It's 101 to be able to know what you've spent, right across the business, and know what you expect to spend between now and the end of the financial year, and what that means based on the income you'd expect to get.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But of course, the people who you may have held accountable for that, most specifically the chief exec and the finance director, they've gone.
Yeah.
And unless we forget this, they weren't pushed. They resigned. So the people who are accountable for what our snapshot is right now are no longer accountable. And in my experience, go back to that non-exec phraseology, the incoming people, and we see this with managers all the time, will say, I didn't cause this problem. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
Right? And that alone is an issue, because you need a certain character to, and there's plenty of them about, by the way, right? To embrace fixing somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
But they need to be truly pragmatic, and truly pragmatic means only operating to truth, only operate to realistic objectives, and as we've said, or I've said, we've said, that means telling your key stakeholders the truth. Hence, whenever these announcements come, and whether they're followed on in coming days with more announcements as roles get filled, you need to have someone in post ASAP who can be decisive and is empowered to make decisions, and then someone who can communicate that to the fan base.
Yeah, true.
Both of them, I keep coming back to the same two things.
There's
lots of other stuff, but they come up down to making informed decisions, actually making them, and then communicating them to key stakeholders.
Yeah.
Both of those you can fix by just recruiting or appointing the right people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they will be, for a while, those people will be managing perception.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Gavin Johnson says Red Onana will be sold before July the 1st for the accounts.
Not necessary.
No.
Doesn't mean he won't be, but it's not necessary for the
We've
accounts.
already got 60 odd, nearly 70 million in the accounts, and a big year dropping off. So
loads of players.
And
But
players
they'll all
drop
show in next year.
No. And if Everton had any sense, they want to sell him. Excuse me. They want to sell him on July. It'd be June the 30th. That's when the financial year finishes.
Is it beneficial to hold off till next year's
Absolutely.
books?
Absolutely, it is. Because then that money will be in
You're
next year. So
guaranteeing
you're
money for
giving
next
yourself
year,
12
then,
months.
Yeah.
If you sold, John, tell me if I'm wrong, but if you sold Amadou Onana on July the 1st, so it's in next year's financial year, you have got till June the 30th. If you then spent the money, say I haven't sold them for 60 million, they could spend that money, but they've got a year, haven't they, to correct that? They've got till June the 30th to get more money in. If they'd obviously still have the O'Leal money and stuff like that, but you've got that year to correct it, so to speak. And if you do it correctly and you have another Amadou Onana who does really well, and then you go, and they'll be bought this fella for 10 and people are offering 4, like Brighton have done. That's the circle you go round.
I would be really and seriously disappointed, and only people in the club know what I'm about to say, right?
Guessing, aren't we?
What the answer is, right? That if you, because I talk about what you've spent and what your income is from the past is easy because it's fact, it's happened, right? Yeah. What you expect to happen, both on income and costs, is a forecast. You should have, the board should have discussed 10, maybe 11 forecasts in the last year, because you set your budget and after that everything's a forecast.
Yeah,
and actuals catch up with the forecast. So what was if we had a forecast about what was going to be spent in June, on the July the 1st, it's now an actual, and we know whether we were right or wrong.
Yeah.
And so forecast accuracy becomes a key metric for whether you're running the show properly. You could still lose loads of money, but your forecast accuracy is spot on. You knew you were going to lose it, and you're trying to deal with it, right? One of the scenarios you would ask or I would, if I was the chief exec, ask my finance director to do, if we have to have a sale of a player to hold the numbers up, which is the Richarlison example.
Of course,
when do I need to sell them? Do I need to sell them on June the 30th or July the 1st? Because one's in one financial year, one's in the other. And I have different scenarios about, if I sell him then, it's then. If I sell him then, it's then. It's different if you've had somebody go off and deal with the Premier League and you promise that certain numbers will look like a certain thing and you therefore have to do it before, in other words, in the current financial year rather than a future financial year. And unless something's going on we don't know about, it would appear to me that the finance director and the chief exec would have, in quotes, the luxury, if we're selling a player, to determine which would be best from a financial point of view, and FFP and all those sorts of things. Where would it be better for us? Would it be in this year or that year? And maybe, just maybe, part of that might even have consideration for things you hope to happen in the future. Because if you've got profitability and sustainability, and you've got the new financial fair play and all that sort of stuff, then you may want to choose when events happen.
When it lands,
And but of course you would hope that all those things were happening, and the fact they've gone doesn't matter, because you already have had the discussions.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully
And
they
you
figure
have
Carlo
temporarily got
out
some
soon as-
continuity because right now this second bill's still here. So
Yeah, true.
Hopefully they figure Carlo soon as for is like, if he's that big, he'd be like, Carlo, can you not put this on next year's?
don't assume,
year's list.
right? Two things, mate. Don't assume that just because he's allegedly suing us in the High Court that he's got a case, right? Because he might not have.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
lawyers do.
Yeah.
And any settlement will be interesting to determine, depending on what the case is really about and which financial year that it landed. It may actually land in a year that's already happened, right? Because it depends,
Yeah.
right? But you would also expect if there was some concern, because you got to imagine he hasn't just dumped on us.
No.
I'm suing your ass.
Yeah.
He presumably, as he was leaving the door, said, by the way, you owe me X. Then you make provisions for those. So we may have numbers in our books which are rolling forward in anticipation of a result.
That anyway,
and then if we lose the case, if there is a case, right, then we provision for it because it was in the forecast.
Yeah.
If we don't lose it, we get a release and it ends up in a place called profit.
We've just got 2.5 million from City, so let's hope it isn't above that. Alex,
Well, that might have been in the forecast.
Well,
You never know.
Alex says, afternoon, lads, is there still a possibility of us ending the 23-24 season at Goodison and the first home game being 24-25 at Bramley-Moore?
Well, we're definitely going to finish the 23-24
We're finishing
season.
23-24 at
For sure.
Goodison, yeah.
Yeah.
I know couple of bits of news have come out the last few days, so apologies if I've misunderstood any of it. But with Luton and Liverpool requesting different things regarding being away at the start of 23-24, if it was a case of only a few weeks extra needed, I suppose we could do the same. So
I see. Yeah, he's
the
trying to say,
first game
yeah,
of
can we
20.
play a few away games to start the new season at Bramley-Moore if it's not ready for the first actual game?
Yeah, I think, listen, I don't know. Everton have, or it came from the fans
That's what
forum
Spurs did.
meeting. Yeah.
They asked for that, and then when it turned out, they weren't ready
They
till
weren't ready
January,
anyway,
February,
yeah.
whenever it was anyway.
So, I honestly don't know, Alex. But he also says, what's a realistic season and reasonable season for you? For me, it's no drama within the club. Tick. Signings in the door before we head to Switzerland so they can bed in
Yeah,
properly.
we talked about that
during
yesterday, so we
pre-season.
agree with that one.
Yeah. It's easy to forget Cody Onana, Maupay, Garner and Guy all signed last summer after the Premier League had started. Yeah, excellent point. Being nowhere near relegation, like being safe with at least 5 or 6 games to spare, please
Be safe
God.
during April.
Yeah, just be safe anyway and not be in that position where you're worried. That would be a lovely thing. I'm not saying it means we'll be fourth. I just mean you know that you're not really in any danger. You know what I mean? That would
Let's
be
have
lovely.
that. You know that last game, that home game where we secure our safety. Let's have that in early April.
February. Let's have it.
Well, yeah, no later than early April.
Yeah. Winning a minimum of 9 or 10 games at home. Yeah, because we only won 6 this season,
Yeah.
which is outrageous. And winning a minimum of 4 away, which is still pathetic. We had 2 this season. 13 or 14 wins.
That's 42 points just
gets
from
us
wins.
safe. Well, that's exact. I'm not being funny, Alex.
That's very sensible.
That isn't like massively like outrageous to expect that kind of thing. Is it 42 points? It's terrible, really.
Throw a
But
few draws
I
in.
tell you what, we'd bite your hand off for it if you offered us now, wouldn't we? So
You're
and
really
that's-
talking about
four.
15 points more than we've got this season.
That's what we should be looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, 51 points would be it.
Yeah.
You'd go, you know what? We've made high 40s,
What would 51 have had us in the league this year? Do you know?
top 10
You're
probably.
sad. Anorak would probably know.
I know that. So
It's never the same. though,
Spurs
is it,
were
is it?
58 and Bright Villa were 59, I think.
51 would have had
So
us 11th.
like 11th, yeah, 10th,
What did we
11th.
finish 10th with Carlo?
59.
And a couple of years prior, that
And
would have
one
been
win
fifth.
one win put us in Europe. That would have put us in Europe.
But you also in those days might have needed 40 odd points to stay up, and
Yeah.
we stayed
The
up at
highest-
36.
No, we were 59 would
I
have
think
got you into
the
Europe.
highest
Something
something has
like
gone
8.
down.
No, well, this year it did. I think he got 59 Villa and got into Europe.
The highest points tally
What did he
someone's
get?
gone down with is
61.
42.
Oh, no, sorry, Villa beat Brighton, didn't he, last
Yeah,
day?
61,
Sorry,
yeah.
he got 61. But when Carlo got 59, it was an anomaly. We didn't get European football.
Yeah, well, that's where
one of the years.
Brentford probably
But then
feel
this
in top.
year, Spurs, what did Spurs?
60.
Exactly, and didn't get Europe.
That's right.
So this year it was up a little bit. That's because lower end, there was a top and a bottom in the Premier League, which there hasn't been. There's always been 3 leagues, hasn't it? Sometimes 4 in the
Yeah.
Premier League.
I think
this
there's
year there was
always-
very much a top and a bottom.
Yes.
I think this season was quite, not an anomaly, but you look at the teams and there's a Norwich where you go, they're down really early. Sheffield United, the season they went down, it was like no wins at Christmas. And you can probably blame the break for this, but this season it was like you're looking, there's not only so many teams in the relegation battle, you're looking at teams like Southampton, who's been a decent team across the past few years. Everton, decent team, big club.
Decent.
Leicester, on paper, decent
I think he means
team.
over the last few years.
Teams that over the
this
past few
year.
years you'd never look at and go in. You never say like, so look at next season, you go, I reckon Luton are nailed on. I reckon.
The anomaly
Sheffield
this
United
season was
are
all the
nailed on.
promoted teams
Yeah.
stayed up.
And I look at last season and I looked at Forest and thought, I don't know about Forest. I don't know about Fulham. I looked at Bournemouth and I think Bournemouth will go down, and they didn't. Next season, I don't think. I look at two teams and I think I can't possibly see an Everton finishing below a Luton or Sheffield United. I could be wrong because I thought that about Bournemouth last season.
It'll be the final third.
Yeah.
What players you bring in?
Well,
So if we bring goals in, we've got a good
Yeah.
chance of having that season. If we don't, we'll be
Squad depth
We'll be
was
massively
less
in-
impactful this year because lots of those so-called lesser clubs didn't have a huge amount of players off.
unless
the
you're
World Cup.
Forest, then you'd have 33 players.
Yeah. But
The 6 weeks give everyone a break. You
That's
see,
what I mean.
Forest were losing game after game. We're almost punch drunk
they
at
had
that
most of their
time.
players around to
But they had-
reset.
But they had 6 weeks to reset. Wolves were getting battered every week.
Yeah.
Had 6 weeks, changed the manager, got to grips with it, came back, won. Teams like that reset halfway through. Villa reset
Big
with Emery.
one,
Don't
big
forget,
one.
huge one, and finished tremendously well. We didn't do anything in the 6 weeks when we probably should have reset and really gathered our thoughts. So yeah, big season.
Villa had a new pre-season with a new manager and said, "Forget what's happened. It's start here and now."
Everton Vikings says, I have a bad feeling Bill will continue with the club, and if he does, it'll be the worst thing all round. The unhappiness will still remain, as he's the biggest target of it. Anyone who's appointed will be questioned if they're Bill's people. It'll unsettle things on the fans, and in the club, it adds more process that doesn't need to be there, and just continues the cloud of anger and suspicion. It needs to be a clean sweep. He shouldn't even have an honorary title, just get him out. Yeah, I think it does need a clean sweep, because that would remove suspicion, whether it's real or it isn't, whether Bill Kenwright has influence or he doesn't have influence, whatever. As long as he's still there, people will
The
always
management is, sorry, mate, go on.
No, I was going to say people will always question it. won't
Yeah, I said it before. The management of perception is it's easier to do than reality. Yeah? And if the perception is bad, it's easy to fix in theory, because if a lot of that badness, as you just said, is associated around a particular individual or group of individuals or so on, then clearly you can change those individuals and the perception changes immediately. The reality will stay the same. In fact, the reality could get worse because none of us really know what goes on behind those doors and how much people do or don't rely. For all we know, Denise, for example, is going to be a massive loss. I mean, seriously massive loss, because we don't know. I think we all have an opinion, and so on with the other roles for people who've gone. But perception, I think it would just be all uphill. It would.
I just think,
and it wouldn't be good for him either.
no, it's not good. From a personal point of view, don't do it to yourself. From
That's
an Everton
right,
point of view,
I think that's the real
and the fans is get rid of any distraction.
baggage.
Get rid of the baggage.
Yeah.
You've had a chance to reset. It's done. It's already 75% done. Make it 100% and go, right, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. And let's see where we go. Because what you'll do is I said this to you the other day, to me, it's just an easy win for him. It's for Mashiri to go, right, I've made a clean sweep.
Yeah.
Right? It'll get the heat off him for a little bit. Obviously, people will then see how we move forward, and we have to move forward. Follow it up with a couple of other easy wins, get some bleeding attacking players in, please, and let's start looking the other way. And it'll remove that. And you know what? I think it'll remove, and again, you can argue all day. I think more and more people who used to argue for and against will be more for the for now, but it would remove a lot of that thing of he's to blame. Whether he is or he isn't is almost that
That's what I'm
story's
talking about.
almost-
It's about perception.
Just
right?
change it and go, we're fresh, we're clean, we're new, boom, this is what we're doing.
See, party pooper mode, based on what Farhad said in his interview with Jazz,
Yeah.
yeah.
He said a lot of things, John.
Well, I'm going to pick.
I know, I'm joking.
Because fans will naturally talk about getting players in and getting players out. the process inside the football club, which I guess is a documented process, is fundamentally it needs to be signed off by
I don't
the
like
chief
that,
exec.
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be signed off by the chief exec. When it's signed off, that's the bit that implies it's the director of football. But I think he actually said the manager and the director of football, didn't he? Right. So let's forget the chief exec for a moment. So the director of football and the manager have to sign off. We want to buy Barricas. That goes to the chair. And if he or she is cool with it, it then goes to the owner.
See, why wouldn't they be cool with it? It can only be numbers, surely.
Well, yeah, but you'd expect
Because you shouldn't be having any other
They
input on
shouldn't
it.
be making requests to buy a player that they should already know we can't afford. You see what I mean? Why it's potentially dysfunctional.
It's just, yeah, it is dysfunctional because I would, if I'm head of the recruitment team and I say Victor Boniface is perfect.
He's the one.
22, he's powerful, he'll get goals, he's not a huge amount of money. If he gets the goals I think he's going to get, we're going to double our money on him. We can sell him as a profit, whatever.
He might score goals as well.
The numbers back that up. Potential is there. We all agree. The manager's happy with it. Why should Bill Kenwright, or I don't know if it ever happened,
do the
why-
roles.
So it'd have
chief
to go to
exec and the owner.
CEO, right?
Yeah.
Why
maybe.
should she stop? If they know the full picture about money, she shouldn't have it, or he, whoever it is now, shouldn't have any say in it. If the recruitment and the manager are going, this is our man, as long as the figures work, they shouldn't have no. Why does it then have to go to Bill Kenwright or whoever the new chairman will be for him to say no? And then if he says, yeah, go ahead then, why should it go to Farhad Mashiri? So he can say to Kia, hey lads, have you got you get that image where
The last
last
bit is where it gets stupid because because the chair of the board signing off on a major piece of expenditure is not exactly very different from how many businesses would operate.
No, I get that,
right? But if I'm the chair, right, then I go, okay, then what are we talking about in the board meeting today? We're going to buy this guy, Barry Cass, right? Okay, and where does that fit from a sporting perspective?
Yeah,
sporting director, right?
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. As I've said, you've got all the stuff in your folder.
yeah.
Fits the profile.
This is what he's gonna do,
When we set the budget, we said we wanted to fulfill a role for a player like this. This is the one.
Yeah.
The manager's on side. He won't be in the boardroom because he's not going to be on the board. But
Yeah.
you can speak to him if need be.
Yeah.
He's bang on side. Oh yeah, I'm the chair. Yeah, Sean had a word with me yesterday. He
Yeah.
wants this guy.
Yeah.
Right. Finance man. How's it fit? Bang on inside our budget. It's exactly what we wanted. It's X amount, salary, blah, 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 blah. Right, okay. Done.
Yeah.
But that has to be able to be done almost on the phone. You don't wait for a bloody board meeting.
No.
You know,
Especially if someone gets off.
I've done countless things when I've spoken to my group chief exec, which is like your chair, right?
Yeah.
And he said, John, get it done. Paperwork will catch up. Paperwork will catch up.
Yeah.
But they just seem to have the way it was described, it just asks you, it tells you why people are in the building and then leave. Yeah.
I just don't understand. It's so frustrating.
So you know where I'm going to say now, don't
No,
you?
I know
You need
exactly what you're gonna
decisive
say.
leadership where
Yeah.
you can make decisions.
Yeah.
But you do all this plan
Remember-
the dive thing. All the work's been done in the budget.
I played something back to you that night that someone had sent me about Robert Earnshaw
Yes. Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was when he was at Cardiff, I think. And Everton wanted him, West Bromwich Albion wanted him. He wanted to come. He scored a lot of goals for Cardiff. Everton liked the look of him. We needed, Moyes, I think it was David Moyes, was like, yeah, we'll have him. He gets goals, and all of that. I mean, as it happened, he didn't get huge goals for West Brom, but he got a hat-trick against Everton, so there you go. And he's driving up, and Everton couldn't make a decision. Oh, we just got to speak to him, and I've got to speak to him. He's in the car. They get up by West Brom, and his agent's like, these like you, should we go and have a chat with these? So they go there, and West Brom basically, they're in the car park going, we're going in now to speak to West Brom. Yeah, we'll get back to you. West Brom are like, I can sign it now for you, mate, and you're a West Brom player. Let me just have one more word with such and such your body. And Everton can't make a decision. And he signs for West Brom. And okay, listen, he wasn't Erling Haaland, so it wasn't like Everton would have won the league with him. But that was just an example of something
Nigel
that happened
Martin.
20 years. I was working at Everton with Nigel Martin, and he was walking around Goodison. They sent him over to
Leeds.
We sent him to Thingy first, to Park Foods.
Oh, yeah, to see
Which was
Johnson.
essentially to wasn't a football club.
No,
He was
that's
sent there, and Cliff Finch said, "Oh yeah, I believe Leeds." He didn't even know, by the way. He said, "I believe Leeds want to sort it, so go and see them and then give us a ring." This is a
Extraordinary.
goalkeeper who we end up getting 10 years later and is amazing for us. But was coming to Everton, would have been the best goalkeeper we'd had since Neville Shea. He was, but he would have been at that time, at the age that he was, could have he changed Everton, the face of Everton. We didn't get him, so we let him go. So then we get Mark Schwarzer, remember him, who was a decent goalkeeper. He wasn't Neville Southall, he was a decent goalie. We offer him a contract. He says, "Well, Middlesbrough have offered me this." It wasn't massively more than Everton. And Cliff Finch said to him, "You should be wanting to crawl on broken glass to play for Everton Football Club." And he said, "Nice one, mate. I'm not an Evertonian. I'll go where the money is." And he went to Borough, and he ended up having good games against Everton for years, and was Australia's goalie for years. That was happening 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
It's still happening today. We've got we've seen this in more recent times, haven't we? Where players are going, "Well, do you want me or don't?" I remember being at Everton in 2005 when we finished 4th. Scott Parker wanted to come to Everton. Everton wanted him. Moyes wanted him. He was, Charlton, the big, bright, young thing. Really good. Everton needed that dynamic midfielder. Newcastle agreed a fee with Chelsea that Everton had agreed with Chelsea. Newcastle offered them a little bit more money, and Everton couldn't decide whether to stretch. So much so that 15, 20 minutes before his press conference to sign for Newcastle, his agent was still saying he'd still like to join Everton.
Yeah.
What is the answer? And we couldn't get an answer or a decision on whether to go the extra $3 or $4 a week for him. And he went to Newcastle, and again, he was good for Newcastle. It wasn't amazing, and he ends up going to Chelsea as well. Sorry, that Chelsea could have come to Everton, gone to Newcastle. He ended up being a good player for Newcastle. Would have been a really good player for Everton, and we couldn't make that
A
decision.
young player turned up at Finch Farm, and he was someone who would perhaps in the moment have crawled across, broken bits of glass to sign, because it was this massive club coming from where he was, and it's on deadline day, and the player goes in, does what he's supposed to have done, got told, classic, go to Everton sort of thing by his club. He signed a piece of paper, didn't know what he was signing because he's a young kid. Yeah. He said, "What happens now?" He said, "Oh, well, we're busy. Let's go off somewhere and we'll give you a shout. Come back at 10:30. Shut up." Yeah, because he heard the story before. And he went here, Hunts Cross, to the Asda.
Okay.
Because he didn't know where to go, didn't know the area or anything. Didn't know nothing. Sat in the Asda with a cup of tea, rang his mum up. His mum's very excited because he's going to join Everton. And he says, "Well, I don't know." Comes back to Finch Farm, walks through the door, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? "Oh, it's done, mate. We've done it. Yeah. Go home." "Oh, no, we'll find a hotel for you because we want you to train tomorrow." "I've got no kit." "Oh, go home, get your kit and come back." Which is what he did. He went home, got home at stupid o'clock, had a little bit of sleep, jumps in his car, comes back again, first day of training, right? Weekend, he completed a treble this season for Manchester City. John Stones.
Oh, John Stones.
Now, that's just a player. But what happens if that deal hadn't happened?
Well, he was at Wigan, was the real thing.
Yeah.
He was about to sign.
Yeah,
He
we
said, "No, go
snazzled
to..."
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we snazzled him.
Yeah.
Well, there was a
But then
player...
we treated him that way. You might have gone, "Sod this, I'll go to Wigan."
Well, there was a player who's just won the treble at the weekend. He would have made a big difference.
Yeah.
And we couldn't decide whether to pay £1 million for him at 16.
Haaland, yeah.
So there you go. And that's
Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
ultimately, well, I think if you speak to everyone who was there that day, it was
they
like,
wanted it happening.
there was no way you should have let him walk out. He was a freak then.
Yeah.
And it's all about that. It's all. And
So decisively,
Mr. Charlatan says, "What about the Muller deal?" But the Muller deal, there was 2 issues with the Muller deal. One, he turned up with a red bleeding blazer on, so therefore he should have never have been considered. And 2, he thought he was getting $20,000 a week tax free, and he wasn't. And Ravanelli was another one. Ravanelli come, I was there that day, turned up with his 40 bodyguards and bounced in, and Everton agreed the deal, the fee and the wages, and he was like,
sorted.
"Oh yeah, tax free. You've been playing for Middlesbrough, it isn't tax free." For that. And he ended up going to Derby County, didn't he? And He said himself he should have gone to Everton. But there you go. But maybe it is culture, but we have to move forward. We have to move forward, and hopefully we cut that decision-making process right down so that if the football people agree and we're happy financially, we sign off and it's done quickly so we can get these people.
It's all the work is done in a head. You know what I mean? If these criteria are satisfied, right, job done.
Yeah.
You know, my bosses, I used to sit down with them and agree exactly what I could and couldn't do around a negotiating table.
Yeah.
I never had to go back.
No.
I could go back and say, by the way, the deal's better than you signed off on.
Oh, absolutely,
But I couldn't go back and say it was worse.
Mm.
And that means when you're negotiating, you negotiate from a position of strength, because you just use a key phrase, which is great. Negotiate. I can do this deal right now. Can you?
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's get it done.
And if you have to go back to speak to your bosses, I've got the upper hand.
Time kills deals. Like last couple, Everton Vikings says, by the way, when it's both Baz and John on the shows, you tend to be my favourite hosts as a pair. No offence to anyone else. Love all the crew. But please, more Baz and John. Thank you very much, Mr. Viking.
Ned says thank you.
Yeah. Tom Long. Hello, Tom. Hope you're well. I haven't spoken to you for a while. Says, hello, lads. Hope you're well. 2 questions. If Ken Wright remains, but with the guarantee of him leaving over the following season, does the fan base accept? I don't think I think some would, but I think a lot would feel like what would be said. He'll never leave, and it's a train set and all that. So I think for everyone, it's better if you just do it now and just go build off your pop. Whether it be more universally accepted if they said he leaves on September the 1st or he leaves on August the 1st, whether people would go, okay, then he's leaving in 6 weeks. Well, I don't know. I don't know why you would do that. I think people might accept that more, but I don't know why you would do that.
The only thing I can think of right now, with due respect to anyone who is or isn't involved, where if we find out today he's gone, right? Yeah. And it is a clean break. And I think the best thing for him personally,
absolutely,
if there's going to be a break, it needs to be
a clean one. Yeah, definitely.
Is that he, for many a long year, whether people think it's right or wrong, has had all the relationships with agents and other clubs and so on. And we won't have that. Yeah. Thelwell hasn't got it. And we
he could still advise, couldn't he? For now.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if he's got to go sometime, so we'll have to create those new
that's what
things
I mean.
anyway.
That's succession planning.
So to me, I would say, well, if I was arguing that, I'd go, well, it won't matter because we'll have to do it anyway. So
that's your succession planning.
Yeah, make the clean.
We would have had a guy ideally to step into those shoes, but he's buggered off to Man United. So
exactly. And add all the things.
Yeah.
And United will be better for it. And secondly, for Tom says, from the squad rebuild video, is it a positive or negative? Oh, is this the shape in the squad? If you want to come in and do a squad rebuild video, Tom, with me, you come in and do it. Tom does scouting and everything.
So when are you coming in? Do it.
Is it a positive or negative? Another manager heavily involved in player recruitment with the majority only seeing Dyche in his style a short-term fix. You know what? That is for a longer answer, Tom. I get your point. I don't know is the answer to that. I get it. You look and you say, I can't see him being here in 12 months or in 8 months or 7 months because of the way it's gone.
Yeah.
So why should we let him pick? The reality of it is we shouldn't be letting him pick players, should we? The way the model, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the way the model should work is the director of football picks players who can fit a squad, and he has them so they're almost versatile enough to play in a Sean Dyche way, but also in other ways. And I get it's difficult, but if you just get basic abilities, speed, power, mobility, Dyche should be able to shape them, surely. And then if the manager doesn't survive, you aren't throwing them out. It's not like having Pep Guardiola and getting all technical footballers and then you sack him and put Sean Dyche in, and you've got, not that Guardiola has these, but bear with me for the purpose of the answer. They're all my size and they're technical, but they're not quick and athletic. And then the next minute, Ned comes in and he wants 6'5" lads that can just run all day. And then all of a sudden we're going, well, we've got a team of little players and no way of using them. The director of football, in theory, should protect against that. Everton haven't done it that way, so I couldn't really answer it.
It's just security, and that's why it was like, when people always said last season, you think Dyche was going to end the season, I always thought, well, I don't know, because of the shit. Really, when in January we were looking at Dyche and Bielsa, it was like 2 completely different managers. So if we finish the season with Dyche and then carry on, Do you start bringing in players to facilitate him? Because he's the manager now, you've picked him and you want to stick with him long term. Is that the philosophy you want to implement in the club, so that if Dyche does eventually leave, you can bring someone who can use the same type of plays, who can play in the same style of play, same formation?
Yeah.
Or do you implement your philosophy, bring in players and say, Dyche, this is what we're doing. You have to, if you want to stay in the job, you want to stay here, this is what we're doing. And if he can't do it, then you move him out and get someone who can. If you bring all these players to fit Dyche, but you want a different type of philosophy, and you sack Dyche and then go and get a Bielsa, you're going to end up with Dyche players with a completely different manager. And that's the consistency now, which has been so poor over the past few years. Where like Carlo has left and Benitez has came in, and it's like, I don't want you, James Rodriguez. That's what we need to. That needs to be solved. So.
Okay, right, we are going now. We've got some other stuff to do as well, but hit the like button on the way out. Thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It really helps us. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who has joined us. We'll be back at 5 o'clock. It is the phone in.
See you in a few hours, yeah.
The club call live at 5 o'clock. If you're a Premier member, you'll be able to get in touch with us and give us your opinion. We're expecting some sort of announcement, so we'll be back at 5. Take it easy. Have a great afternoon. Oh, Cam said he'll be in next week. Good. Be good to see you, Cam.
Good one, Cam.
Take it easy. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. See you later. Bye.